We are the Raylers, and we're here to sell out and make money and stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And with that rousing beginning, welcome y'all to the third part of our fanfiction versus original content.
Actually, let's just call it the fanfic extravaganza, because let's face it, the first two weren't verses.
Okay, that's true. Stuff about fanfiction. I'm your host, Rayler, and with me, as always, is the great Chaos Professor.
Yes, I am here, and totally not somewhere else.
Anyway, on our first two episodes, we touched on favorites, worst. Actually, we didn't touch on worst at all, and that's probably for a good thing. But
let's put it this way: worst fanfic I've ever seen. I was just clicking random fanfic, and I came upon one. Literally, it's a crossover between Soul Calibur and Naruto. Talon falls out of the sky, lands on Naruto. Within 2 more sentences, they're having sex.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Worst fanfic that I ever read, I don't even remember what it was about, what was happening. But the author went out of his way to capitalize the first letter of every word for 5 chapters. And I just I can't, no.
Maybe it was like The Secret of the Sorting Hat in one of Jay Byrne's fics. All those capitalized letters, if you put them out in a sentence, it spells out, I want you to all take it up the ass.
Anyway, moving on, here to talk about the differences between, actually get to the topic, the differences between fanfiction and the canon universe and why fanfiction honestly is better. Let's start with Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, alright. Harry Potter, we had The Beginning, and The Beginning was a good children's series.
Yes.
The problem was, as her readers got older, she tried to write it for a more mature audience, but she had already written herself into a corner with the characters.
Yeah.
Characters that are built for a children's series have to be, by nature, very simplistic.
Yeah.
Snape's an asshat, not because it's his personality or anything, but because we need a person for Harry to hate.
Yeah.
Dumbledore can't do anything, not because, he's not powerful, but he simply can't do anything because if he could do what needs to be done, Harry wouldn't have a job. And for a children's book about children doing this, there's no story if you just I'm going to tell Professor Dumbledore, he'll take care of the whole thing.
True, although in many cases that writes Dumbledore off to be the bad guy.
Yes.
Which is honestly one of my more favorite archetypes.
Because she wrote him into a corner. If he was impotent to stop the things from happening in the first 4 stories, how is he suddenly magically going to gain the ability to help out in the end? Ergo, even if he does become more competent, we still have to find a way to
legitimately put him in that position.
Legitimately explain away his incompetence in the first 4 books.
If they wrote it off as an imposter and then switched him out and, here's the real Dumbledore and he's awesome, it would have been gimmicky, but it would have made more sense.
Then, for instance, there's one line that every Harry Potter fanfic loves to quote, where he goes, I know that I was setting you up for a bad life. Now, admittedly, in the context, it's not so much that Harry was having this absolutely horrible life that fanfic authors like to write him, where he was being beaten every day.
Yeah.
But, he didn't have a happy, loving family.
No, he didn't.
And that's what Dumbledore meant. That being said, in conjunction with the fact that, Dumbledore is indirectly responsible for a lot of what happens in Harry's life because of the things he's done. Admittedly, he couldn't do anything to fix them because it's a kid's story in the beginning. When you get to the end and it's supposed to be more adult, he just ends up looking like either an evil mastermind or an incompetent asshat.
Yeah. And in that sense of mind, it is perfect quality material for people to get their hands on for good fanfiction.
Yes.
That being said, it's more often than not just a bunch of pairings and a bunch of really weird stuff. However, for this world, and let's just point out a few good things that we could use for examples for good fanfiction.
Yeah.
The Triwizard Tournament.
Triwizard Tournament has a lot of potential because we have other schools coming in, most of which we know nothing about.
Yeah. If you were going to take this instance, just this instance in the book, you would be able to put the characters through more interesting challenges, able to introduce characters more easily in a believable way.
And quite honestly, with the Triwizard Tournament, that's a lot of potential that was really squandered because he had someone holding his hand the entire way through, even though he didn't know it till the end.
Yeah.
And in canon, another big problem is there are plot holes that literally cannot be explained away, simply because, they start off a children's book. I mean, book 3, you gave this 13-year-old girl a time machine.
Why?
There is
Because so she could get more classes.
Even without that, there is no discernible reason why you gave her a time machine. And even if you had a discernible reason why you gave her a time machine, the fact of the matter is that time machine could have been used for so much more.
It could have been, and there is a fan fiction that does make use of it, although it more or less abuses it. And the one I'm talking about is the one where Harry's a genius and evil and Ravenclaw.
Oh yeah.
That one. What's that called? I can't remember.
Methods of Rationality.
Oh my gosh. Another brilliant writer. He utilizes the time turner's ways.
Let me just go ahead and get out of the way and say right here, Eleazar Yudowsky is a genius himself. I mean, if I remember correctly, he's working on artificial intelligence projects. He is amazing. And he basically took the Harry Potter universe and rewrote it to his own specifications, in which Harry is a rationalist. The universe makes a little bit more, admittedly, not a whole lot, but a little bit more sense.
It's still Harry Potter.
But it makes a little bit more sense. And with that, he has managed to do something absolutely amazing.
Granted, it is kind of getting a little draggy at some points, but
it's really draggy. And spoiler alert, towards the end, when you start getting into the less about the rationalists discovering the magic and more about Harry getting pulled into, I guess you could say, Hogwarts politics, that's when it starts getting a little bit hard to read.
Yeah, but not saying it's a bad read.
No.
It is an extremely interesting, entertaining read.
Yes.
It's just some people might not be able to.
And that's why, fanfic has so much, potential to it. And that's why the good writers will inevitably do better than the original authors. Because the original authors create characters, and then they are bound by how they've created their characters. They can't really get away with going, well, this character acted this way here, and now they're acting totally different here, without trying to create some sort of BS explanation as to why it is.
Yeah.
And, that's one thing that fanfic definitely does have above original fiction, is that the fanfic is very, very fluid in what it can do with their characters.
Yes, it's not rigid. Some can be, but as a whole, fanfiction itself is very fluid.
That being said, please ignore any instances of completely shit-written fanfics.
Yeah.
We're not even going to acknowledge that they exist, and quite honestly, anytime I see them, I just, kind of close my eyes, scroll down.
Now, what's another instance in Harry Potter that is prime meat or clay that can be used for a fanfic writer?
Where to begin?
Well, I started at the Triwizard Tournament. What's another good point in one of the books?
Good point in one of the books. All right. Book 1. I mean, there's so much potential. I mean, as we know from the canon, everybody pretty much at this point reveres Harry.
Yeah, pretty much.
And all he does is shy away. And I get it. For the original series, that was the right move. You needed a humble hero. No one wants an arrogant asshat for a hero.
Well, some do, but that rarely works.
That rarely works, exactly. That being said, in fanfic, where he's got a lot of problems that could have been solved had he basically used his fame and been a little bit more arrogant in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, all these time travel stories where Harry knows his worth. Quite honestly, that is a good deal of that's a good deal of what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, let me rephrase that. When Harry knows his worth in these time travel stories, he is able to pull off so much more. Stuff like, if nothing else, fanfic. Another thing I've just got to mention here because it just popped into my mind. It allows a person to write for a different audience. I mean, Harry Potter fanfics can be written both for kids by ignoring the later part of the series, which was trying to be adult, or it can be written for adults by reworking the beginning of the series.
Exactly.
And reworking the beginning of the series allows them to make it, more for a certain audience. You want teams. You write a sort of teen story in the world of Harry Potter with the characters of Harry Potter.
Correct.
And that means you do have to change some things, though. I mean, if you're going to have Dumbledore be an impotent, person, you can't have him changing at the end. He's got to remain impotent.
Right.
And that's the problem J.K. Rowling had. She needed these awesome characters for later in the series, but she had these characters, but she couldn't really introduce them believably.
Right.
Mostly because she had made them a certain way at the beginning of the series when she needed a stereotype for a kid's book.
Very true. Well, we've touched on Harry Potter pretty well. Let's move on to another one of our favorites, is Naruto. To me, Naruto is just a great big sandbox with a ton of toys to play with. And for me, currently it is my focus for fan fiction because I love ninjas. It's a great universe to work with. However, I take deep issue with the
canon.
Me, amongst many others out there, believe that it should have stopped at Naruto and not really went into Shippuden. Because the best story was in Naruto, and Shippuden, honestly, just is still dragging on.
Yeah. Admittedly, it looks like we're winding down. If I remember correctly from what I read on the wiki, we're now down to pretty much the final boss. Naruto pulled another, I'm miraculously going to convince this enemy who's all but bent on destroying the earth to somehow come to my point of view and resurrect all my allies for me.
Yeah, no spoilers because some people are pretty bad about that, even worse than Harry Potter. But yeah. But back on topic with that, I like the Naruto universe because there's a lot of unexplained things. And there's a lot of world, there's a lot of lore that I can have fun with.
Yeah.
As a fan fiction writer, what I would do with Naruto is maybe attempt to explain a lot of the tropes that fan fiction just puts into the game. One of which being that the entire village is evil towards him. Other than a few choice words at the very beginning of the series, you never really see that.
If nothing else, Naruto doesn't make sense as a series because it retroactively assumes change.
Right.
I mean, everybody from Naruto himself to the Hokage to the people who even acknowledge him as a good kid, honestly, at the very beginning of the series, believe he is the QB.
Yeah.
You look at the English translation of the very beginning of the series. It's not he's the Jinchuriki of the QB who's got the QB sealed inside him. It's literally the Hokage's like, yes, he's the QB who's been sealed in human form. Iruka, he's the QB who's been sealed in human form, but he's a good kid anyway.
Now, the one thing that I kind of wish they would have done is gone with the original pilot of Naruto, because I've read the original Chapter 0.
If I remember correctly, wasn't the original pirate where like his dad had been the QB?
I'm not sure about that, but it actually had him as Kyuubi. He was a fox spirit that
he wasn't QB. He was another fox spirit, but because he was a fox spirit,
they assumed that he was Kyuubi, and that was an interesting story.
Also,
because
wasn't he a male boy?
More like he was just this troublemaking kid that just literally would prank, and you actually see him pranking people.
Yeah.
I think people take more along the lines of Naruto as a prankster from that than anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I wish they would have gone with that because it was an interesting idea. This fox can turn to look like a human. He's a ninja. He has a cool design. But no, they all take the entire village is against them. They all take the festival of the QB's defeat. That's one thing that never works.
Did that ever come in?
I don't think so.
It may have been in the anime in one of the fillers, but I didn't see it in the manga.
Now this is one thing where I very much differ. I do not take the anime as canon. I take the manga as canon because it came out first. And a lot of the filler that anime episode where Hinata is perfecting her technique and Naruto sees this one girl by the waterfall. I don't take that into account because I don't think it happened. The episode where Naruto has to babysit this rich brat, I don't take it into account because it's filler.
That being said, there was a movie where he had to babysit a rich brat.
Well, there's that.
And the movies, admittedly, it's pretty obvious the movies are an alternate universe.
Pretty much.
If nothing else, the fact that we've already defeated Akatsuki, and yet they still come back to the Road to Ninja, which, by the way, I'm a sucker for a time travel story. And that wasn't a time travel story, but it was alternate universe, and that's close enough.
Exactly. But yeah, I don't take a lot of what the anime does into account. I will take some inspiration from some of the very few selective good filler episodes. Don't strike me lightning. But as a whole, it's not very good. I tend to stick to the manga. I tend to stick to the original translation of the manga as for what it takes.
If it makes you feel any better, I've seen like one episode of the anime, so I don't even bother with it.
Awesome. And the voice, I'm sorry, those of you out there, but the voice actor stinks for the American translation. I can't stand it.
That being said, like everybody else has a pretty decent voice actor.
Yeah, which is kind of sad. I mean, if you, I'm not going to get into that. That's a little too mean for me. Moving on.
Well, no. Here's how you get away with it. They want you to get into it. It's a rule. You have to get into it. But screw the rules. I have lung cancer.
And there's
obligatory
abridged reference.
No, Karibo. This one's to you, boy.
Oh, awesome. Car games on motorcycles.
Wow.
Slight segue into the next area, Yu-Gi-Oh! As much as some people are iffy about it, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe does have some merit. At least I think so.
Its characters were good. The manga was pretty decent. The card game, I like how it kind of evolved from the way it was originally played in the beginning of the manga. How it evolved to more like the card game we see in the games. However, the problem is everybody goes, well, because it evolved, it must suck. No, quite honestly, card games sometimes like that evolve. New rules are added in as people find it, easy to play.
Yeah.
And that's really, I have no problem with that. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe itself, it had an interesting cast of characters. Admittedly, main character, a little bit overpowered.
And I'm talking about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe as a whole throughout the timelines, which includes Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, which is my favorite of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series.
I'm going to completely ignore Exile or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Zexal.
Zexal.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I tried for like 5 seconds to read the manga, and then I quickly erased my memory because it was just god-awful. But the reason why
I was even having trouble with... 5Ds... I was having trouble reading.
Yeah.
But that's about the limit. After the, it's degrees of separation. Yu-Gi-Oh! Kazuki Takahashi. Amazing, writer.
Yeah.
That was good. 1 degree of separation was GX. It was still pretty good. 2 degrees of separation. It's starting to suck. 3 degrees of separation, not going to touch it.
Not going to touch it at all. But back to the fan fiction part of the story. I think the world... Okay, if you have these mechanics, like, Battle City, or Duel City as it was called, Kaiba's place, it was used in that Naruto Yu-Gi-Oh! Crossover. You got money, or you got battle points, or star points, by winning duels, and it added a mechanic into the world.
And the star points gave you a small allowance.
Yeah. And
so if you were a great duelist, you could just make a living playing cards.
Which is an awesome idea.
Exactly.
I want this to be a real city. I want to move to this city and use my Exodia deck. Or just whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine. But as a fanfiction universe tool, it may not be the best.
No.
But it does present a palette to work with. Because it's so small... Maybe you have a better time fitting into it as adverse to a world that is so big, you have all these other rules to choose to. And that's another thing. If you're going to get started into writing fan fiction, choose something you like. And choose something you can see yourself as you are right now interacting with. Because if you can't see yourself in there, I don't know about you, Professor, but anytime I'm watching anime, or anytime I'm watching a movie, or reading a book, I just can stop sometimes like, if I was in this situation, I was actually there with what I know, maybe a little bit of fourth wall breaking, but with what I know, how I am right now, this is how I would do it. I want to know how it would change it differently. Like Naruto.
Yeah.
Drop me into Naruto. What's the first thing I do? I go to the library. I learn everything. The next thing I do, I become Sasuke's best friend because he's a valuable asset. Next thing I do, I either make Naruto more intelligent as a person, or I just make him quit being a ninja somehow.
I'm sorry. That, again, I know we're going back to Naruto, but quite honestly, when someone that retarded can become Ninja Jesus, there's something wrong. I mean, when your savior of the world is literally so stupid that you have to have acts of God clue him into what's happening, and even then sometimes he doesn't get it, what can I say? Not a good main character.
Not a good main character at all. But anyway, choose your poison wisely. Choose something that you're able to kind of slip yourself into, kind of imagine yourself there, then create a character that can work in there. I'm not saying start out with a self-insert. More often than not, that's a bad road.
Don't even start out with an OC. Play around with the advice if you're starting fanfic. Play around with the characters a little.
Exactly.
It's like, read the source material or watch the source material or play the source material or whatever. But learn your source material.
Check out the wikis.
Find out what the characters are like. Then go, maybe if this happened instead of this, how would the characters react? Once you have that, then go, okay, if I change this character to this way instead, how would all the other characters react?
Exactly.
Once you have your characters down to where you can kind of see what they do, then you can come in and play with your own characters.
Right.
But a little bit of advice, don't really start with it.
Not necessarily. But once you do get that level of creative juices flowing, and you're able to write fairly well with the characters that exist. Once you have a knowledge of how the world works, how the characters would react, then you can move on to my more favorite type of world to enter, places like Skyrim or places like Pokemon, where there are characters you can use and you can play with, but the main character is you. The main character revolves around your choices.
Yeah.
Recreating the Dragonborn. And, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to the Dark Brotherhood right off the bat, join them, become the most ultimate assassin, and then I'm going to go undercover into the Mages Guild. That's a cool story.
Yeah.
Or you're the character in Pokemon. You know what? I'll join Team Rocket.
Yes. That's the thing I wish most. Pokemon. You were given a chance to join Team Rocket, and you don't even have a chance to answer.
In fact, it's like he tries several times to ask you, and it just assumes that you say no. I get because it was the starting game. You don't necessarily want to put that into kids' minds. But please, please give us the choice next time.
Aljo, if we have to join a team, make it like Team Rocket. Make it the Mafia instead of the...
others.
I'm sorry,
Actually, let's not go there yet because...
Team Fabulous?
Team Fabulous.
I'm sorry. Well, I don't even know their name, but it's just, it's Team Flamboyant. I'm sorry, it's just...
Foreshadowing. Also, if you're going to write...
How is that foreshadowing? The game's already out.
No, I'm talking about something else. You know what I'm talking about.
Our plans.
Anyway... Another tip, if you're going to write fan fiction, try writing something that's not fan fiction. Try writing just standard fiction, write down your ideas, write down a story. Don't try to force yourself to be limited to just that. Because I have seen some fan fiction authors that become brilliant authors. Personally, one of my best friends started out as a Pokemon fanfiction writer.
And I remember that stuff.
He took Ganondorf from Legend of Zelda and made him the most hilarious slapstick guy ever, and it worked.
I remember that.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing.
And now He's a professional author.
He's got 2 books published. He's working on his 3rd. He's got a good...
When is that coming out, anyway?
Well, the first 2, I'll put a link in the description. The first 2 are already available for Amazon Prime and Kindle.
Kindle.
Part 3, I'll have to get back in touch with him on that. It's going... I just don't know how well. Yeah. He's working on it. He's going to try and take a break, but he just couldn't help himself. He had to get back started on it. He's got another book that's based around...
I am waiting for that.
But just to prove a point, that fan fiction can lead you to great places. I mean, he's got 2 books under his belt, and as one of his closest friends, I have looked into this guy's head. He has so many ideas, it's off the chart. How many good, separate ideas he has outside of his main series.
That being said, his main series is awesome. Shameless plug, Jericho Johnson.
Yes.
Jericho Johnson. I don't even need to say any more. I know some of you are already interested.
Because the name is just that awesome.
Now, let me say a few more words, see if I can peak that a little bit. Time travel.
1.
Awesome Gauntlet.
2.
Hold on a second. Pizza box is falling.
Pizza boxes are falling from nowhere. Anyway, time travel. Power Gauntlet. Vikings. Ninjas. Pirates.
Giant robots.
Soviet Russia. Armageddon.
Completely skips a chapter because he feels like
it. And I love how this episode is boiled down to a shameless plug for my friend's book.
Because if nothing else, that book is awesome enough to...
But just to prove a point that
yes.
fan fiction can take you places.
Yes.
Don't let anyone ever tell you that, oh, you write fan fiction, that's stupid. Punch them in the face if they say that. Fan fiction is a gateway to an untold
Better yet,
amount of
send
potential.
them to me. I'll go and buy complete collected works of J-Burn and hit him over the head with it. If they somehow wake up from the coma that'll probably put them in, then you can argue with them.
Exactly. But to sum up the rest of this episode, we're pretty much at the end point here.
Booyah.
We
like fan fiction.
We like fan fiction, period. We, the Raylers, are advocates of fan fiction. We consider it its own art form. Those of you out there who are writing fan fiction, keep doing what you're doing. Those of you who are writing bad fan fiction, please take this moment to try and fix it. Just know this, that by writing fan fiction, you are creating something. And it has the potential to be the worst thing in the world, or to be a masterpiece that will take you to greater places. And that's all I really got to say. You?
Well, I could do a bunch of plugs here, but...
Nah, show notes. That's what they're there for. Anyway, to wrap up this little series, and if you want us to maybe do reviews on fan fictions that you've read or that you've made, send us a message. If you want us to cover other topics within fan fiction or media in general, let us know. We're always looking for suggestions. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Booyah.
This has been pretty fun for a 3-part series. I hope to take it other places. This is Drail88.
And Professor Chaos.
And we wish you all good night.
Booyah!
Yeah! 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 Yeah!